Earth was different now. The blue skies had returned after 300 years of work to clean the planet. Trees grew tall again, and animals roamed freely in the protected forests. But very few humans lived here anymore. Most people had moved to live on other planets among the stars. Do-hyun stood at the window of his room in the Earth Protection Center, watching the sunset. At 16 years old, he was special for one big reason. He was the last child born on Earth. His parents were scientists working to restore Earth's environment, and they had chosen to have him here instead of on the space colonies where most people lived. Do-hyun, it's time for your daily checkup, called Dr. Park through the room's communication system. Do-hyun sighed. He knew these checkups were important, but he didn't like being treated like a science project. As he walked to the medical center, Do-hyun thought about the strange things that had been happening to him lately. Last week, he had accidentally bent a metal door while trying to open it. Yesterday, he had jumped so high during his exercise routine that he had touched the ceiling of the gym. The medical center doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, Dr. Park was waiting with his usual kind smile. "How are you feeling today?" he asked, preparing his instruments. "Different," Do-hyun answered honestly. "Everything feels lighter than it should. And sometimes I feel like I can hear the trees growing." Dr. Park nodded, not looking surprised. He pressed a few buttons on his tablet, and a large screen lit up with images of Do-hyun's DNA. "We've discovered something interesting," he said. "The restoration protocols we use to heal Earth's environment have somehow merged with your genetic code. Because you were born here during the restoration process, your body adapted to work with these protocols." Do-hyun stared at the screen, trying to understand. "What does that mean?" "It means you're becoming something new," a new voice said. Do-hyun turned to see Commander Jae-yun entering the room. She was the head of the Earth Protection Center, and she rarely visited the medical facility. "The Galactic Council has been watching your development with great interest. They're calling you Project Hercules, like the ancient hero." Do-hyun asked, remembering the old stories his mother used to tell him. "Yes." Commander Jae-yun smiled. Hercules was known for his incredible strength and his ability to protect both nature and humanity. "We believe you might be able to do the same, but on a much larger scale." Dr. Park showed more images on the screen. "Your abilities aren't just physical. You're developing a unique connection to Earth's restoration systems. You might be able to help us understand how to heal other damaged planets." Do-hyun looked down at his hands. They looked normal, but he could feel the strength flowing through them. "What happens now?" Commander Jae-yun stepped forward. "We want to send you to the Stellar Academy. There you'll learn how to use your abilities. The galaxy needs help, Do-hyun. Many colonies are facing environmental problems that we don't know how to fix. You might be the key to solving these problems." Through the window, Do-hyun could see the restored forests of Earth stretching into the distance. Birds flew across the orange evening sky. Everything looked peaceful, but somewhere out there, other worlds needed help. Other places needed healing. "When do I start?" he asked. Commander Jae-yun smiled. "Tomorrow. Pack your things tonight. Your journey begins at sunrise." As Do-hyun walked back to his room, he felt different. He wasn't just the last child of Earth anymore. He was something more. He was hope for a better future, not just for one world, but for many. That night, as he packed his bags, Do-hyun watched the stars through his window. Soon he would be up there among them, learning to be the hero that the galaxy needed. He was scared, but he was also excited. After all, every great story starts with a journey. And this was just the beginning of his. The Stellar Academy floated in space like a giant silver wheel. Do-hyun pressed his face against the transport ship's window, amazed by its size. Thousands of lights sparkled along its surface, and ships of all sizes moved in and out of its docking bays. "Welcome to your new home," Commander Jae-yun said, standing beside him. "This is where humanity trains its best and brightest to help protect and improve our colonies among the stars." The transport ship docked smoothly. As they walked through the Academy's halls, Do-hyun noticed that everything was bigger and stronger than on Earth. The walls were extra thick, and the doors were made of heavy metal. He soon learned why. The Academy was built this way to handle students with special abilities. Commander Jae-yun explained as she led him to his new room. "You're not the only one who's different, Do-hyun, but you might be the most important." His room was simple but comfortable, with a view of the stars. After settling in, Commander Jae-yun took him to a large meeting room. The walls were covered with screens showing different planets. Many of them looked damaged or strange. "We have a serious problem," Commander Jae-yun said, touching one of the screens. It showed a planet that looked sick, its surface gray and lifeless. This was Green Haven Colony 3 months ago. She touched another screen. "This is Green Haven now." Do-hyun's eyes widened. The planet was completely different. Its surface was covered in strange geometric patterns, and all the green was gone. What happened? "The birds happened," a new voice said. A tall woman in a science uniform walked in. "I'm Officer Hye-jin, head of environmental science here at the Academy, and we need your help with something we've never seen before." Hye-jin pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed huge mechanical birds, each one as big as a small ship. Their metal feathers gleamed in the light of distant stars. "These were created to help terraform planets," Hye-jin explained. "They were supposed to make harsh worlds suitable for human life, but something went wrong. Now they're changing our colonies into places where nothing can live." Commander Jae-yun touched Do-hyun's shoulder. "Your connection to Earth's restoration systems might help us understand what's happening. These birds were based on similar technology to what helped heal Earth, but they've evolved beyond their original programming." Do-hyun watched the hologram birds soar through space. They were beautiful but scary. "How many colonies have they changed?" "7 so far," Hye-jin answered. "And they're moving faster each time. We need to stop them before they reach more populated worlds." Commander Jae-yun pressed another button, and the room darkened. A training schedule appeared on the main screen. "You'll start your special training tomorrow. Officer Hye-jin will teach you about the birds and the technology behind them. You'll also learn how to use your abilities properly." "Will I have to fight the birds?" Do-hyun asked, feeling nervous. "Not yet," Commander Jae-yun said. "First, we need to understand them. Something is guiding these birds, changing their behavior. Your job is to help us figure out what that something is." That night, Do-hyun couldn't sleep. He stood at his room's window, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, giant mechanical birds were changing worlds. He thought about Earth, about how it had been saved and restored. Now other worlds needed saving too. He touched the window, feeling its strength. He was stronger now, but was he strong enough for this challenge? As if answering his question, he felt a gentle pulse of energy flow through his hand into the window. The glass glowed softly for a moment, responding to his touch. Maybe he wasn't ready yet, but he would be. He had to be. Because somewhere out there, worlds were being lost, and he might be the only one who could save them. Tomorrow, his real training would begin, and with it, the first step towards solving this mystery of the mechanical birds that were reshaping the galaxy, one planet at a time. After 3 weeks of intense training at the Stellar Academy, Do-hyun was ready for his first real mission. The transport ship carrying him and Officer Hye-jin approached Nova Arcadia, a colony world that had not yet been attacked by the mechanical birds. "We think they might come here next," Hye-jin explained, showing Do-hyun the planet's scans on her tablet. The birds seem to follow a pattern, and Nova Arcadia matches their usual targets. The planet below them was beautiful, with purple oceans and golden continents. Small cities dotted the coastlines, connected by lines of silver transport tubes. But something felt strange to Do-hyun. He could sense it through his connection to the restoration protocols. "There's something calling them here," he said, placing his hand on the ship's window. I can feel it, like a song, but made of numbers. He-Jin looked at him with interest. Can you tell where it's coming from? Do-hyun closed his eyes and concentrated. The strange signal grew stronger. There, he pointed to a spot in the northern continent. It's coming from underground. They landed near an old research station. The building looked abandoned, its walls covered in climbing plants with blue leaves. As they walked toward the entrance, Do-hyun's skin tingled with energy. The signal was definitely coming from here. Inside, their flashlights revealed dusty corridors and old computer terminals. But one room was different. It was clean and showed signs of recent use. Screens lined the walls, showing data streams and bird movements across the galaxy. "Welcome to my observation post," a voice said from the shadows. A man stepped forward, his eyes tired but alert. "I'm Kita. I've been waiting for someone to find me." He-Jin moved protectively in front of Do-hyun. "You're the one sending the signal." Kita shook his head. "No, I'm just listening to it, trying to understand. The birds, they're not what you think they are. They're not broken or malfunctioning. They're evolving, becoming something new." Do-hyun felt drawn to one of the screens. The numbers flowing across it seemed familiar somehow. "You worked on the original bird program," he said, recognizing patterns similar to Earth's restoration protocols. "Yes," Kita admitted. "I helped design them. But then they started receiving signals from deep space. They began to change. At first, I thought I could control the change, guide it. But they've grown beyond that now." He-Jin was recording everything on her tablet. "Why are they changing the colonies? What's their purpose?" Kate touched one of the screens, bringing up images of transformed planets. "They're not destroying the colonies. They're preparing them. But I don't know what for." "The signal. It's ancient, older than humanity's presence in space." Suddenly, all the screens flickered. Do-hyun felt a surge of energy through his connection to the protocols. "They're coming," he said. "The birds are approaching Nova Arcadia." Through the station's windows, they saw them. Hundreds of mechanical birds, their metal wings reflecting the purple light of the ocean below. They moved together like a single organism, creating patterns in the sky that seemed to respond to the signal Do-hyun could feel. "Now you'll see," Kita said quietly. "They're not our enemies. They're messengers, and they carry a warning about something far more important than terraform technology." Do-hyun watched the birds circle overhead, feeling both afraid and fascinated. Through his special connection, he could sense their purpose growing clearer. They weren't just machines anymore. They had become something else, something that carried an ancient message across the stars. The real question was, what were they trying to tell humanity? And why did they need to change entire worlds to deliver their message? Inside the research station on Nova Arcadia, Do-hyun watched the mechanical birds through special viewing screens. The birds had been circling the planet for 3 hours now, their metal wings creating patterns that seemed to match the strange signal coming from deep space. Officer He-Jin worked quickly at the main computer, analyzing data from the birds' movements. "Their behavior is different here," she said. "They haven't started changing the planet's surface yet. They're waiting for something." Keita nodded, his tired eyes fixed on the screens. "They're gathering information, learning. Each bird is part of a larger consciousness now. They share what they learn with each other." Do-hyun stepped closer to the window. The bird's presence made his skin tingle with energy. His connection to Earth's restoration protocols was growing stronger, allowing him to sense more from the mechanical creatures. "I think I can communicate with them," he said quietly. "The protocols in my body, they're similar to the bird's basic programming. Maybe I can understand what they're trying to tell us." He-Jin looked worried. "That could be dangerous. We don't know how they might react." "We have to try," Kita said. "The signal they're receiving, it's getting stronger. Something is coming, and we need to know what it is." They set up special equipment to protect Do-hyun. Hejin attached sensors to monitor his vital signs, while Kita prepared the station's communication systems. Do-hyun sat in a special chair, ready to attempt contact with the bird collective. "Remember," Hejin said, "if anything feels wrong, tell us immediately. We'll break the connection." Do-hyun closed his eyes and focused on the energy flowing through him. He reached out with his mind, using his connection to the restoration protocols to touch the bird's consciousness. At first, he felt only confusion. Thousands of mechanical minds working together, processing vast amounts of information. Then he saw something. Images flashed through his mind. Ancient cities made of crystal, strange machines buried deep in space, and a warning repeated over and over in patterns of light and energy. "There's another civilization," he gasped, his eyes still closed. "They left these messages long ago. The birds, they're receiving instructions from their warning system." The Jinn typed rapidly on her tablet, recording everything. "What kind of warning?" "Something is awakening," Do-hyun said, his voice strained. "Something that was sleeping in the dark spaces between stars. The birds, they're preparing our worlds for what's coming." Suddenly, all the screens in the station lit up with new data. The birds outside began moving in new patterns, responding to Do-hyun's presence. Through their shared connection, he could feel their purpose becoming clearer. "They're not trying to harm us," he said, opening his eyes. "They're trying to save us. The changes they make to planets, it's not destruction. It's preparation." Kaita moved quickly between computers, analyzing the new information. The patterns they create on the planet's surfaces, they're not random. They're parts of a larger system, a network spread across multiple worlds. Hejin studied the data on her tablet, her eyes widening. These changes, they're creating some kind of planetary defense system. But against what? Before anyone could answer, the birds outside began to move in perfect unison. Their metal wings caught the light of Nova Arcadia's sun, creating a brilliant display in the sky. Through his connection, Do-hyun felt their message growing stronger. The ancient civilization's warning was becoming clear. Something was stirring in the depths of space, something that had caused them to hide their own worlds long ago. And now, after thousands of years, it was beginning to wake up. The desert world of Helios Prime stretched endlessly in all directions, its red sands glowing under three suns. Do-hyun, Officer Hejin, and Ki-tai had followed the bird's signal here, to a place where the mechanical creatures had already changed the surface of the planet. "This used to be a failed mining colony," Hejin explained as they walked across the transformed landscape. "But look at what the birds have done to it." The ground beneath their feet was covered in complex patterns made of a strange crystalline material. The patterns spread as far as they could see, creating shapes that seemed to pulse with hidden energy. Do-hyun could feel the power flowing through them, similar to but different from Earth's restoration protocols. "Someone's here," Kita said suddenly, pointing to a structure in the distance. It looked like a research station, but it was built into the crystalline patterns rather than sitting on top of them. As they approached, a woman emerged from the station. She wore the uniform of an AI researcher, but it was modified with unusual devices attached to her sleeves and collar. "I wondered when someone would finally come," she said. "I'm Sunmei. I've been studying the bird's transformations for the past 6 months." Inside her station, Sunmei showed them her discoveries. Her main room was filled with holographic displays showing the changes the birds had made to various planets. "They're not destroying these worlds," she explained. "They're preparing them for new inhabitants, but not for humans." Do-hyun looked at the data floating in the air around them. "What kind of inhabitants?" Sun-mi touched one of the displays, and it showed a simulation of strange, crystalline life forms. Silicon-based life. Ancient beings that have been dormant for thousands of years. The birds are creating environments where they can survive. "But why?" Hejin asked, studying the simulations carefully. "Because they're running out of time in their current home," Sunmai said. "These beings, They've been sleeping in the space between stars, in the coldest, darkest places. But that space is changing, becoming unstable. They need new homes. Do-hyun placed his hand on one of the crystalline walls. Through his connection to the protocols, he could feel the truth of Sunmi's words. The patterns weren't random. They were like circuits preparing to host consciousness. The birds aren't our enemies, Sunmi continued. They're trying to save both species. The silicon beings need new homes, but they also want to share their knowledge with us. They've seen things out there in space that we need to know about. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Outside, thousands of mechanical birds had appeared in the sky, their wings creating patterns that matched the crystals on the ground. Do-hyun felt a surge of understanding through his connection. They're not just terraforming machines anymore, he said. They're translators, building bridges between our two kinds of life. The patterns they make, they're a language both species can understand. Sunmi nodded. But we don't have much time. The space between stars is changing faster than expected. If we don't help these beings find new homes soon, they'll be lost forever. And with them, the knowledge they've gathered over millions of years. As they watched the birds continue their work, Do-hyun understood the true challenge ahead. It wasn't about stopping the birds. It was about helping them complete their mission. They needed to find a way for two very different forms of life to share the same worlds. The emergency alert woke Do-hyun in the middle of the night. Commander Jae-yun's voice came through the communication system of Sunmi's research station on Helios Prime. The birds have changed course. They're heading to Earth. Do-hyun rushed to the main room, where Hye-jin, Kita, and Sunmi were already watching the tracking screens. Thousands of mechanical birds were moving through space, their formation aimed directly at humanity's homeworld. Why Earth? Hye-jin asked, her fingers moving quickly over the control panels. The restoration zones are still fragile. If they try to change them now, that's exactly why they're going there, Sunmi said. Earth's restoration protocols are the most advanced in human space. The birds want to study them, to learn how to make better environments for both species. Do-hyun felt the truth of her words through his connection to the protocols. But Earth can't handle their changes right now. The restoration work isn't finished. We have to stop them. They boarded their fastest ship and raced toward Earth. Do-hyun stood at the front window, watching the stars blur past. He could feel the birds' presence growing stronger as they got closer to Earth. We need a plan, Kita said. The birds won't stop unless they find what they're looking for. Sunmi worked at her computer, analyzing data from Earth's restoration systems. Maybe we don't need to stop them. Maybe we just need to show them a different way. When they reached Earth, the sight took their breath away. The mechanical birds filled the sky, their metal wings blocking out the sun in some places. They hadn't started changing the surface yet, but Do-hyun could feel them preparing to begin. I need to talk to them, he said, not just through the protocols this time. I need to show them what Earth means to us. They landed near one of the main restoration centers. Commander Jae-yun met them there, her face worried but determined. Whatever you're planning, Do-hyun, do it quickly. The restoration zones are already reacting to their presence. Do-hyun walked out onto a platform that extended over a restored forest. The birds circled above him, their sensors focused on his presence. He could feel their curiosity about his connection to the protocols. Taking a deep breath, he opened his mind fully to the connection. Images flowed between him and the bird collective. Earth's long journey to healing, the careful balance of the restoration work, and the hope it represented for all humanity. But he also showed them something else, his vision of a future where both species could live together, sharing knowledge and resources. The birds' patterns in the sky change, responding to his thoughts. They're listening, Sunmi said excitedly, watching her instruments. The signals are changing. Through the connection, Do-hyun felt the birds' understanding growing. They saw how Earth's restoration methods could be adapted, how they could create environments that would support both carbon and silicon-based life without destroying what was already there. Slowly, the birds began to move in a new pattern. Instead of preparing to change Earth's surface, they started studying it, learning from the restoration protocols. Du Hyun felt their consciousness merge with his own, sharing knowledge that would help both species survive. "They understand now," he said, his voice tired but happy. "They'll help us find a better way, a way that works for everyone." The trial wasn't about strength after all. It was about wisdom, about finding a path forward that respected both the past and the future. As the birds continued their dance in Earth's sky, Du Hyun knew that this was just the beginning of a much bigger journey. 1 month after the birds came to Earth, Du Hyun stood in a special observation room at the Earth Protection Center. Through the large windows, he could see the first test of their new plan beginning. A small group of mechanical birds worked together with Earth's restoration systems, creating something that had never existed before. "The readings are perfect," Jin said, checking the monitors. "The birds are following the new programming exactly as we designed it." Sun Li nodded, her eyes fixed on the data flowing across her screens. "The silicon-based environments are forming without disturbing the natural ecosystems. It's working better than we hoped." Below them, in a carefully controlled test zone, the birds were creating crystal structures that grew alongside trees and plants. The crystals didn't harm the natural life around them. Instead, they seemed to work with it, sharing space and resources in a delicate balance. The silicon beings sent new information through the birds. Ki-tae explained to Commander Jae-yun, who had come to watch the test. "They showed us how to create spaces where both forms of life can exist together. They don't need whole planets anymore, just small areas where they can establish their communities." Do Hyun placed his hand on the window, feeling the energy flowing through both systems. Through his connection to the protocols, he could sense how the two different types of life were learning to work together. The crystal structures would provide homes for the silicon beings, while the natural environment continued to support human life. "We're ready to try this on a larger scale," Jin announced. The first silicon beings could start arriving within weeks. Commander Jae-yun turned to Du Hyun. "How do you feel about all this? Your connection to the protocols made this possible." Do Hyun smiled, watching the birds work below. "It feels right. We're not just saving one species or the other. We're creating something new, something better than either of us could have done alone." The test continued through the day. More birds joined the work, their patterns becoming more complex as they refined their methods. The crystal structures grew in beautiful formations, catching the sunlight and sending rainbow colors across the landscape. "Look at this," Sun Mai called out suddenly. She adjusted her screen so everyone could see. "The crystals aren't just providing homes. They're storing information. The silicon beings are already sharing their knowledge with us, even before they arrive." Through his connection, Du Hyun could feel the flow of information. The silicon beings had explored space for millions of years. They had seen the birth and death of stars, discovered secrets about the universe that humans had never imagined. And now they wanted to share everything they knew. "This is more than just finding them new homes," he said. "This is the beginning of a partnership that could change everything. We can learn from each other, grow together." As the sun set over the test zone, the crystal structures glowed softly, pulsing with their own inner light. The birds circled overhead, their work for the day complete. In the coming weeks, they would help create more of these dual environments around the world, preparing for the arrival of Earth's new partners in space. Do Hyun felt a deep sense of peace. The crisis had led to an opportunity, a chance to make something wonderful. Two different kinds of life, learning to share the same worlds, each making the other stronger. 6 months had passed since the first silicon beings arrived on Earth. Du Hyun stood in the grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council, looking out at the assembled representatives from both human colonies and silicon communities. The hall itself showed how much things had changed, with traditional chairs sitting alongside crystal formations that housed the silicon beings. Commander Jae-yun stepped up to the speaking platform, her voice clear and strong. Today, we celebrate the success of the Hercules Protocol, a new way of developing planets that has changed our understanding of life itself. The screens behind her showed images from different worlds. Each planet now had special zones where crystal cities grew alongside human settlements. The mechanical birds flew between these places, helping maintain the balance between both forms of life. None of this would have been possible without Do-hyun. Commander Jae-hyun continued. His unique connection to Earth's restoration protocols helped us bridge the gap between our species. Do-hyun felt himself blush as the assembly turned to look at him. Hye-jin, who sat nearby, gave him an encouraging smile. She had been promoted to lead the science team that studied how the two species could work together even better. The silicon beings have already shared remarkable knowledge with us, Hye-jin said, taking her turn to speak. Their understanding of space and energy has helped us improve our ships, our colonies, and our ability to restore damaged worlds. Sun Mei, who now led the new Department of Interspecies Communication, added her own report, and we've only begun to explore the possibilities. Each day brings new discoveries as our species learn from each other. Through his connection to the protocols, Do-hyun could feel the excitement and hope filling the room. The silicon beings pulsed with soft light in their crystal seats, sharing their own feelings of satisfaction through patterns of energy that everyone had learned to understand. Commander Jae-hyun called Do-hyun to the platform. In recognition of your role in bringing our species together, the Council has created a new position. You will lead the Division of Planetary Development, helping guide the growth of our shared worlds. Do-hyun stepped forward, feeling both proud and humble. Thank you, he said simply. But this success belongs to everyone who helped find a better way forward. To Officer Hye-jin, who never stopped looking for answers. To Kita, who helped us understand the birds. To Sun Mei, who showed us how to bridge our differences. He turned to look at the assembly. And especially to the birds, who didn't give up trying to deliver their message, and to the silicon beings, who trusted us enough to share their worlds with us. As if responding to his words, a group of mechanical birds flew past the hall's giant windows, their metal wings catching the sunlight. They were different now, carrying patterns from both species, changed by their role in bringing two forms of life together. Later that evening, Do-hyun returned to his favorite spot in the Earth Protection Center. The window looked out over a valley where crystal structures rose beside a restored forest. Young humans played near the crystal formations while silicon beings shared stories through patterns of light and energy. He wasn't just the last child of Earth anymore. He had become something more, a bridge between species, a protector of two forms of life. As he watched the sun set over this new world, Do-hyun knew that his journey wasn't ending. It was just beginning in a bigger way than anyone had imagined.